Hello everyone, I'm Maria and I'm from Poppy Citrus Crafts. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I'm going to do a project that's slightly different from my normal. This does involve sublimation again, so no card making today. However, I wanted to sublimate on this cool chopping board or serving board that I found at Kmart here in Australia. And it was very inexpensive at $10, and I really like this look, and it's a nice light colour. I've seen a lot of videos online showing you that you can sublimate on wood, which I found quite fascinating. I didn't know about it until I saw a video of it lately from another creator, and I thought I'm going to try this myself and see, because I can't afford a laser right now. I would love a laser cutter engraver if I could. So X-Tool, if you're watching, I would love one, please. Thank you. So one way to get around that is to use sublimation, or you can do wood burning. I have done a wood burning project for a friend of mine, and I sent that off a few weeks ago. I have not shown that online because it was a gift to my friend, but I do want to try the sublimation, and one way to get around it is to do that. So that's the more inexpensive way. So today I'm going to be using the Epson general purpose dye sublimation transfer paper. Found this at Machines Plus. I will link that in the description box below if you wish to get that. And I'm using my Epson F160 printer, which is a dedicated sublimation printer. Now I want to sublimate on this a recipe. I've got this recipe here that I've written with my handwriting and my horrible scrawl using a pen and paper. Now I want to create this as a gift, and what I want to do is then sublimate this on top of that, so people have a nice handwritten recipe. Now if you can use this as a gift, and especially if you want to immortalize a loved one's recipe, whether they've passed or you want to just give it to them as a gift, what a great way to do it. This is fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan this into my computer using my scanner. Then I will take you over to the my computer screen, and I'll show you how I brought that all up, and then we'll come back here again. So I will see you shortly. Okay, so I'm now in my Silhouette Studio Business Edition software. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my file, open, and then I'm going to into my pictures, and then I will see my image here. So I'll open that up, and there is my recipe, which is so cool. Now, I can print this as is, but I do want to get rid of these lines and things and these mistakes here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace images up to where I want it. And I'll do this in sections, because you'll see why in a minute. So I'm going to increase the threshold, and then I'm going to press trace. And that will be a trace of all of my my words. Okay, then I'm going to do another one here. So I'm going to do trace again, and I'm just going to do it in sections to get rid of these kinds of mistakes. So I'm going to press well, I might as well just do all of it, really. I was just thinking about it, and that's silly. Okay, so I'll just keep going all the way. Then I'm going to increase the threshold. And then I'm going to press all the way up, I think. Yep. Up until that looks reasonable. Then I'm going to press trace. And that's going to trace. Now for this one here, I'm going to get rid of, oops, go back. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this part, get rid of that, and I'm going to do it again. And just reduce the threshold. So you just got to fiddle around and see which of that you prefer, okay? So I'm just going to put the threshold up till I can see it's mainly highlighted. Pardon me. Maybe go down a little. And then just press trace. Okay. So I'll put this to the side, but we'll have it there as a reference, and don't delete it. So I'm just going to increase the magnification. And as you can see here, there's a lot of mistakes here. So what we need to do is we need to release compound path. Okay, so it's going to become all little bits and pieces. And we are going to get rid of, go back. Going to get rid of all the bits we don't need. So this bit here, we don't need that. So we're going to press delete and all of this stuff. Just clean it all up. Delete. Delete. And then this stuff can all go. And I'll just press delete. Okay. There's just more of these little bits and pieces we don't need. And delete. Okay. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to highlight all of these. And I'm going to say, sorry, do this one here. And I'll say make compound path. Excuse me. And then click out of that. Just go down here. I'm going to highlight all of that. And actually, I'm going to get rid of that line. I don't need that line, but it has my words on it. So I'll grab my rubber and I'll get rid of the bits I don't need. I think that's the safest option. Okay. Get out of that. And then what I'm going to do here is click all of that, right click and say make compound path. Then I can move that all up so it looks more together. And I think that looks about right. So now I'll just get the magnification down a little. And so now what I'm going to do is highlight all of these, and I'm going to put fill, and I'm going to use a dark brown. So I'm going to use this brown. With the lines, I'll do the same dark brown as well. So what the effect will be is basically, as I explained before, it's going to look like it's been wood burned onto that chopping board or that serving board. And so now what I'm going to do is just group all of this together. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to remeasure my chopping board, and then I'll have to size this down. But so far this size is 10.643 by 7.86 inches, which I think is still the perfect size. I'll just have a quick look. And actually, yes, it is. So what I'm going to do is keep it to that size. So what I need to do next is I need to I'm just going to check and make sure everything looks like it's in order. And this looks fantastic. This is all my messy writing. I'm actually quite thrilled. So I'll zoom out again. Zoom out again. And so what I'm going to do with this is, now that it's highlighted, I'm going to right click and flip horizontally. So I'm going to change my page to A4. And I'm going to show the print border so that everything is within that border. So as you can see, this faint line here. And then what I'm going to do next is send this to my sublimation printer. So that's what I'm going to do. The next view will be me showing you the printout coming out from my printer, and then we're going to heat press this onto the chopping board. So I'll see you again shortly. So here is the sublimation print, and as I said in my previous video, I used a dark brown. This looks a little bit washed out because it's a sublimation print. It's not as dark as you would get it if you were to print it regularly. So with the sublimation printer, that always happens. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to tape it down to my chopping board here. And I'm not going to preheat or anything. I'm just going to go straight onto it. That's the videos I've seen. That's what they do. And that's what I'm going to do as well. So I'm going to try and just going to pull this up just so I can see what I'm doing here. Square this on. And I think that looks just about right here. So I'm going to get some heat tape. And I'm going to tape that down in a couple of places just to ensure that it stays in place. And this will make a fantastic gift. Now, with these chopping boards, once you've sublimated on them, I don't recommend you use this to serve food on there. That's just a big no-no, so I wouldn't do that if I were you. Alright, so I've had my heat press preheating as I was doing this. So I will take you over to the heat press and I'll show you how I'm going to press this. So we're now at my heat press. It's preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that's 205 degrees Celsius for 60 seconds. Here is my chopping board with the heat tape on there. I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to put this right in the middle of the heat press. So some of that will stick out and that's okay. And so put that right in the middle of my heat press. I might have to take off this heat pad and just put the chopping board here. Just a second, I'm just going to try and work that out whether that is a good idea. I think I'll just do that. Alright, just straight on. I'm going to put that in there for 60 seconds. Now, I made a big mistake. I forgot to put a piece of Teflon or baking paper. So don't do what I did. Make sure you put that on top. Now, this looks like it's sublimated. I'm going to take that off. And that's how that looks. Okay, so on the side here it didn't work out very well, but I'll come back and we'll discuss this at the craft desk. Okay everyone, so I have now come back from the heat press, and as you can see here, it has ghosted on this side, okay, and it's ghosted here. So when I took off the heat mat from the heat press, you could tell that the heat press has got like a little ridge on the sides. So this chopping board, because I put it on that way, was kind of up a little, so it kind of ghosted on this side. So that kind of makes sense. So, and I also didn't preheat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reprint this and I'm going to do it on this side and see how that turns out, okay? But overall, I think the result is actually quite fantastic. Pretty clear, but I am going to reprint it and do that process again. So I've just reprinted my recipe again. And this time I put a little bit more heat tape and I did tear around the edges. Not that it will do anything other than it'll just give me more room to put my tape down. And I did make the recipe just slightly smaller than this. So yeah, so just a reduction by about 10 to 15%, just a little bit smaller. So I taped it down really well so that it can prevent ghosting as well on the sides. So that's what I want to make sure it doesn't happen. So I'm going to add a little bit more tape. I've got my heat press preheating. So we're just going to give this a go and make sure that it doesn't ghost. And this time I will remember to put some butcher paper down and to make sure that this doesn't happen like it did the last time. So luckily, you know, with this mistake here, and I think it turned out great, but it will look better on the other side with it a little think, a little bit taped down. So I'll see you at the heat press, and then we'll start this process again. So this time I'm actually going to leave in this mat because there is a ridge. The chopping board was not even. So this time I'm going to put it in this way. I've got my baking paper this time, or parchment paper. You can use that. Right over the top, I'm going to get my Teflon sheet. Bring this back a little. Alright, we're going to try this again. And hopefully this time it will work. Okay, so it's about to finish up now. I'm just going to hold down the Teflon sheet just to prevent any ghosting from happening. And I'm now going to remove it all. And I think, let's get rid of that baking paper. Just turn that off. I think that turned out okay. So let's just take off all of the, I'll leave this, take this back on. And that turned out worse. Okay, so I don't think, I'm going to say this honestly, I think this has got like a little paint on it or something, and it didn't turn out great. So I would say stick with the engraving on the chopping boards. I think the other one turned out okay, a little bit better, but we'll see the results more in person when I get off from here. So I'll see you shortly. Okay, so this is now my second attempt, and I thought I'd do it on the other side, and the wood was preheated as well. This actually turned out worse, in my opinion. Well, clearly, it's not as clear as the one I did before. So it didn't make any difference at all if I had the mat on there or not, the heat mat. This result was actually a lot better. And I would have to say that maybe this wood is not a great wood to sublimate on. This is acacia wood, so I'm not sure if that makes a difference, and maybe you're better off getting like a bamboo kind of chopping board. So I may experiment and try and find a cheap bamboo chopping board and try that instead, because I think this has got that white wash on it and things like that. It makes it maybe a little harder to sublimate on. But my first attempt was way better than my second attempt. But I think the smaller size was a good idea. But it's unfortunate that that did not turn out. But I've seen others do it successfully, so that makes a difference. You know, it can be done, but it's just not with mine. I don't like the idea of putting a laminate on there because of the shiny texture. It just looks fake, and then when that wears off and comes off, it will look silly. So for me, sublimating directly onto the wood is a better option. And I also like the, you know, the vintage look of it, the little worn out bits. So this will do. I don't mind having this. This is for my own personal use anyway, and I can use this for decor. Yeah, just on the side here, it's all blurred, but I can still make out a little bit what it is. And I'm only missing a couple of words just on the side, so it's not really a big deal, and it's still legible, so that makes it out like this is an old heirloom. So yeah, this is a good gift idea if you wish to use that idea, but I think be careful of the wood that you use, and maybe just use a bamboo wood that's also a light in colour so that this can come out. But on the whole, I think it looked great, and it can be done without a laser, but I think you can't beat a laser as well at the same time because it's burned into the wood. So X-Tool Australia, if you're watching, I would love to have the opportunity to get a laser, and I would like to try this out with a laser and see what the difference is. Alright guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you again next time. So although I said I finished, I wanted to try something out. I wanted to know for myself that since this is all stuffed up and it didn't work out for me, I'm going to test with a wet paper towel if this sublimation print comes off when you wipe it. So in the event that something gets dirty on this chopping board and you're giving this as a gift, I would like to know if I can wipe it down or would that come off. So here's my wet tissue. I'm going to wipe it down. And I'm happy to report I've got some maybe varnish coming off. Whoops. Maybe I've got a little bit of varnish or something coming off. But the actual print itself does not come off. So isn't that good to know? Isn't that good to know? And this is even the washed out one up here. And that does not come off. So I find that really, really interesting. So there you go, guys. If you happen to drop something on this chopping board and you want to clean it up, you can, because I'm using a paper towel here to wipe that down and it's not coming off. So there you have it. That'll be a nice follow-up. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial and I hope to see you again next time with something a little different. See ya. So it's the following day after I've filmed this video and I haven't put it up because I was really disappointed that this didn't work out. So what I did is I grabbed some 240 grit fine sanding discs. These were on clearance. You can use these with a sander, an electric sander. But I'm actually just using the discs as is with my hand. I did a little bit of experimenting where I just sanded the sublimation off. And as you can see, it has come off here, which I'm very pleased about. And I'm presuming this can happen as well over here. So I'm just going to sand this. Sorry about that. And you can sand it off. It just takes a little bit of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand all of this off and try on the other side as well. And then from there, the following day, I'm going to try and sublimate on this again and see if that works out. All right? So I'll be back within the next day or so, or maybe earlier. We'll see how we go. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Okay everyone, so I spent the last, I don't know, I think it's about 20 minutes, half an hour or so, sanding this by hand with the sanding discs that are made for electric sanders. I found these on clearance, as I said, at Bunnings, so that for me was good enough, and it worked. So that's a 240 grit fine sandpaper, basically. So what I ended up doing was I sanded off it had a white finish, if you can tell up here. I did sand a little bit off there, but I sanded most of that off. So it's basically almost raw wood. In no way am I an expert in woodworking or anything like that, but I did clean my surface and I did wipe down my cutting board with a wet towel and cleaned it. And that's the other side as well. So I'm going to give this a good 24 hours for it to dry. And then the following day, I'm going to try and sublimate this again. And we will see if sanding off whatever varnish or whatever finish they had on that also helps for the sublimation to take even more. But just to let you know, if you make a mistake and you've sublimated on your cutting board and it looks awful, rather than wasting the cutting board, give sanding it a go down and use a fine 240 grit sandpaper, which is what I did here. Because it's so fine, it was able to scratch off all of that surface. And the cutting board is beautiful and smooth. So, as I said though, a disclaimer, I'm not a woodworking expert, but I would definitely do that if I were you, to get rid of the sublimation. Try and sublimate it again. And then after I sublimate it, I'm going to put like a finishing oil on there to seal it up. So like a tongue oil or a chopping board oil. and that will help to seal all of that in. But you can definitely sandpaper it off if you are desperate. So there you go. All right, guys, so I'll be back in another 24 to 48 hours, depending on when I get time to do it. And I will let you know if we can resublimate this again. Okay, so I'll see you again next time. Okay, so it's been about 48 hours, and this is my now newsprint, slightly smaller. I'm putting it into my heat press. It's going down for 66 seconds at 400 degrees Celsius, and now we are at finishing that. Again, it didn't work out, so I would say this is a big fail for me. Best to maybe try a wood surface that is not treated with anything and is raw. Okay, take care and see you soon.